What's up? It's Raul here, coming to you today with Something RX. Today we're joined here by Karen.
Hi there.
How are you going today?
Excellent, thank you.
Good. Basically, Karen is a running extraordinaire, crazy woman who does things that I think the average person would never do and can't do. You probably run more in 1 week than people have their whole lives.
Yeah,
would you say that's a fair call?
Possibly,
Possibly.
yes.
I reckon you run more in 1 day than people have run their whole lives.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourselves, Karen.
I'm 58 years of age. I didn't come into running until quite late in life. In fact, I didn't run my first marathon until I was 52.
Yeah.
And I'd been running about 18 months when I did that. I started off with an outdoor training group at about 49, and my opening comment to them was that I'm not a runner, I'm not going to run, and if you make me run I won't come back. And they kind of didn't take that seriously. Had me doing a few jogs within about 6 weeks, and I actually quite, despite my best efforts, enjoyed it. They obviously saw something that I didn't, and they enrolled me or signed me up for my first run after I'd been with them about 3 months.
How long was that run?
It was 4 kilometres. It was between
was that scary at the start?
Absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
That's like 4,000 metres.
It was between Henley Jetty and Grange Jetty and back.
So it's a sand run?
Yes, sand run. Terrifying. I didn't run the whole way. I think I made about 3/4 of the distance and then had to start walking. But there was just something that grabbed me.
Was it the atmosphere? Was it the running itself?
It was the atmosphere, the running, the camaraderie, and that sense of achievement, thinking, God, I just did that. And who would have thought?
Now, I know what your next logical progression was from there, but what was it to people who don't know? Like, what did you go from after your first 4K?
After that, I was obviously fairly pumped. So somebody actually said to me, you need to get yourself some proper running shoes, because I was running in quite heavy cross trainers. So I went into a local running store, and whilst I was buying some running shoes, I saw a whole pile of pamphlets on runs. Saw one for 5 kilometres and thought, well, if I can crawl and run for 4, I can do 5. So I went to 5.
What 5K run was that?
Now that was just around the streets of Adelaide. I think it was for the Hutt Street Women's Centre. And it was just along the River Torrens. Fairly achievable. Again, didn't run the whole way, but managed it. And then I quickly went up to about an 8K run. Then soon after that, the training group I was with decided that they would enter us all to do the City to Bay. And my God, 12 kilometres is just so far.
And I mean, when you're only running 5Ks,
exactly.
It's a lot. It's more than double.
And in fact, I can remember there was a young man in my training group called John, who we all held in very high esteem, because he was known to have once run 10 kilometres.
Oh wow!
Oh my God! How could anybody run 10 kilometres? So
was this a running group that you were involved in? Or
yes,
was this
it was an outdoor training group. So running
group,
and weights, things like that. So my way of dealing with the fear of 12 kilometres was to find a 15-kilometre run that the South Australian road runners did, and I entered that with my trainer. And typical new runner, I went out flat strap, first 7 kilometres, hit the wall and crawled back the last 8. But I did finish. And so when that
was an entire run that time?
Yes. And so when I did get to the City to Bay, it wasn't scary.
Walk in the park.
It was. I mean, it certainly hurt. I was a new runner. But I learnt a lot. And I think as I went on, I learnt a bit more about what I could do. Now let's freeze frame there to everyone listening. So here we have 12Ks that you've gone through. And now we'll go back to this story. What did you just run? What's the latest, longest run you've done? The latest, longest run I did was I think we were talking September. Last September, when I entered the Adelaide 6-day event.
How many Ks?
486 kilometres.
486 kilometres. So let's go back to the story. Just give people some perspective.
So then I started to think about running half marathons, and that just seemed just overwhelming.
But obviously, for some reason you thought, let's just not keep doubling up the Ks.
And I think very early on, I had a sense that it was the distance that attracted me rather than speed. So as other people I knew focused on, say, 200 or 300 metre sprints, I personally couldn't see the point of all that training for a race that was over in 9 seconds. I like my money's worth. So I started training for the first half marathon, and I think from the very first time I joined the outdoor training group to when I did my first half was, I think, about 18 months. So it didn't come overnight. And the run, I enjoyed it. Yes, I made mistakes. I hit the wall at about 18 k's, and the last 3 and a bit kilometres were cruel. But I also started, I think, at that time to get a very early grasp of the fact that long distance running, yes, you need the physicality and the strength to do it, but I do think 90% or even more is in your head. And that's pushing through that pain barrier.
So you started realising, I guess, some of the things that you have, you know, I guess that difference between the psychological aspect of you know, this training and more so the physical side of it.
Yeah, very much. So when you're hurting and your head's or your body's screaming at you to stop, what I have learnt is the pain of stopping and not finishing is far greater than the pain of pushing through that last bit. So what's that sort of story that you have inside of your head? Because we all have a story that we tell ourselves, you know, when we get to adversity and we get to obstacles. What's the conversation that you have in your head when things get hard in these long, you know, marathon or ultra marathon runs? When things get really tough, I probably draw on my experience with my son. So I have a son who's 31 years of age now, profoundly multiply disabled. And I think, well, Luke can't do this, and how tough is he to have done what he's done? So suck it up and just do it.
And I guess it constantly gives you that perspective.
It does, and I just think that that intense desire to cross the finish line and to look and think, my God, I just did that. So, for instance, we were talking before last week, I competed in the Mount at Thredbo in the Mount Kosciuszko Classic. So I ran up the peak of Kosciuszko, 6 kilometres in freezing cold conditions.
How cold was it?
About 2 degrees.
2 degrees,
and winds about 100 k's an hour.
People had to stop you from being blown away?
Yes.
Quite literally.
I tell you, when I got to the summit and looked back and thought, my God, I just did that. It was just the most extraordinary feeling, and it's not one of being boastful, but it's just this overwhelming sense of wonderment that you can actually do it.
That's crazy. So half marathon run?
Half marathon,
obviously. Then I'm guessing the marathon came along?
Then the marathon came along about 6 months after,
Yeah.
and in my typical very foolhardy fashion, because I'm not the average runner that will say, well, let's just train and build up to this.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I've done the City to Bay, which is 12 kilometres. The marathon's only 3 more of that. How hard can it be?
Yeah.
So I went out and signed up for the Adelaide Marathon. First 20 kilometres, fine.
Yeah.
Went out and I think came in under 2 hours.
Yeah.
Which is way too fast.
Yeah.
And the second 22 kilometres, I got a real dose of humility.
Yeah.
It was very hard.
Physically, mentally, fitness.
Mentally, fitness. I had no idea the concept of putting your body through 42 kilometres at pace.
Yeah.
Never even occurred to me that it would hurt.
Yeah.
The mental tiredness, the tears, the emotions.
Yeah.
The profanities.
Yeah.
But just something inside, and to this day I don't know what it is. There's something there that won't let you stop.
Yeah. And it must obviously be your, like, what you expect from yourself and your opinion of yourself.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think you this huge sense of disappointment in yourself.
Yeah.
And to taste the finish and know it's achievable and seeing other people that are finishing.
Yeah.
Well, then why can't I? So,
yeah.
And the fact is you can.
And you try and make sense of it, and then obviously it's like you fight with, I can try and make sense of it, I can just do it, so that it's, you know, I can quiet that voice down almost.
You can, and I've learned the hard way soon after that, in that I attempted my first 100k event.
Yeah.
I did train for that.
So that was soon after the marathon?
Yeah, it was. Probably about 6 months after.
Was that the next event you did after?
Yes, it was, yes. So I went straight from marathon to 100 because why bother with in between?
So like this is why you're a little bit crazy, Karen.
Yeah, so
most people would say, 50, let's try 50 or 70.
Exactly.
Logical
straight
things,
to the 100.
But straight to the 100.
And my first 100, I'm trying to recall, was here in the Adelaide Hills. I think it was a trail.
So it was a trail.
Yes, it was a trail.
Well.
Yes, yeah, not a road. Just go straight to the trail.
Yeah. How much harder do you find trail than roads, or what's your context with both of them?
How do you compare apples with oranges?
Yeah.
I think a road run generally is only 42 kilometres, 42.2 marathon. Yes, it hurts. You're pounding on the bitumen, and it does hurt. And I think you have higher expectations of yourself because you're out on a hard surface for a shorter distance.
Yeah.
As opposed to a trail where
it's a bit more unexpected. You're constantly, arranging yourself to the environment.
Yeah, you've got different surfaces, different obstacles. So there's it just doesn't seem so hard. For my body, I would recover much easier doing 100k on a trail than I would a marathon.
Okay.
On the bitumen.
Yeah.
So anyway, I signed up for this 100, trained for it. Went out. The day I did it, it was 40 degrees.
Yeah.
It was just miserable. And I can remember coming into the checkpoint at Morialta, and it was like a casualty station.
Yeah.
I'd puked all the way up through Morialta, and there were just people lying everywhere with drips in, and ambulances coming in one after the other.
Yeah.
I just got down the bottom and went out like a light.
Yeah.
That was the end of my event. And I accepted that. I was very, very upset, disappointed, cross with myself that I couldn't push through that heat.
Yeah.
And then I think a few months later, had another try at a 100k event, and again wasn't successful.
Yeah.
Got to 62 kilometres, had a few health issues, hypothermia this time, chest filled with fluid. Could I have gone on? Yes. I wasn't mentally tough enough.
Yeah.
They pulled me into medical tent for a couple of hours, and I just took the easy option and said no.
Now, how did you, when you experienced that, how did you went on to build more, I guess, mental fortitude and mental fitness to keep going with some of these really hard and tough races?
I think the next couple of events I did were slightly shorter.
Yeah.
So I found a couple of local events, did them well, and I think that to prove to myself that I could, because I had this block of getting over 60 kilometres, so to prove that I could go over and that it was achievable, and that when I'd crossed the finish line at 60 kilometres in the right conditions, hey, the body still felt good, the head was still in the right space, and I could have pushed on for another 40.
Yeah.
So I took the plunge again, signed up for another 100, except this one was 105.
Yeah.
And again, 40 degrees, better prepared, better mindset. I teamed up with another runner by this stage, a male runner, Kim, and we often will do the ultras together.
Yeah.
And we looked after each other right through.
Yeah.
Finished in about 17 hours, 105 Ks.
17 hours.
Yeah, and for me that was a huge turning point, because if confidence-wise I'd cracked that 3 figures. I knew I could do it, and from then on I knew, given some major catastrophe, nothing was going to stop me.
Yeah.
It was just, it took 2 or 3 goes to crack that 100. And once I'd done it, that was it.
So a lot of people try a lot of things in life, and they, the first time they fail, they throw in the towel and they say that's it. Yeah. Why do you think you kept trying with? And it's not like it's not the sort of thing that you try for a second. And it's the sort of thing you went and tried for, let's say, 11 hours, and then you go like, okay, it didn't happen again.
Yeah, exactly.
So what made you want to keep going every time?
I wanted to say that I had done it. I knew that I could do it, and it was just that, I don't know, is it A-type personality?
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop until I've done this.
Yeah.
I was also mixing with a lot of people, runners, who were all had the same goals. Some had done it and achieved the 100 numerous times, others that were like me and still trying to get to it. So it was that group camaraderie, support, and just something inside my head saying, you're not going to stop this, you're going to keep going, you are going to do it. Learning to push through the pain barrier and thinking, well, it's only pain.
Yeah.
What's your problem?
Yeah, toughen up.
Yeah, toughen up,
yeah.
Exactly. Because I have seen a lot of people, and they constantly hold themselves back. They'll say, oh, my hamstring's niggling, or my back's niggling, and this is niggling, and I think,
because what
is your problem?
And that's some of the things with fitness and training, like when you're trying to achieve these you're competing in events, you know, it is hard, and it's meant to be hard.
Yes.
You know, like it's not meant.
It's not
you
meant
know,
to
there's
be
no
easy.
reward if it was. There was no reward if it was easy, and you know, like you as an athlete or somebody who, you know, a fitness enthusiast. You know, you're a student of fitness, and you want to get yourself involved in it. There's you're constantly going to meet these points when you're uncomfortable and things are niggling, and you know, I look at it constantly as it's a big test. You know, life's asking like, how badly do you want to do this?
Exactly.
And you have to keep going back there and knocking on that door and proving to life and yourself that.
Yeah, because it's that enormous disappointment when you don't succeed.
Yeah.
It's just overwhelming. I can remember crying for about 6 days when I failed my second 100 kilometre.
Yeah.
I remember my husband saying to me, "What is the matter with you? You don't understand. You know, I haven't done it." Yeah. And it was just the most enormous disappointment, and I just declared that is not going to happen again.
Yeah, of course. So from there. So now from here, I'm assuming many 100k races came along.
Yeah, they just kept going.
What's the next notable race?
So the 100k runs sort of went from probably more from being events to becoming training runs.
Yeah, because at this point you became an ultramarathon runner.
Yes. So I then needed to start looking for other things because I'd done 100, so what's next?
Yeah.
So I think my next big run I entered was the Adelaide 24-hour event, which is where you run for 24 hours for as much as you can without stopping.
Yeah. Where is this event held?
This was here in Adelaide, so that was at the Uni Loop. So it's a 2.2 kilometre loop.
Yeah.
You have support out there. You start at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning and you finish 10 o'clock the following Sunday morning, and you just keep running.
Yeah. So to people who are hearing this is no sleep, just
No sleep.
Straight 24 hours.
Just keep going.
How do you fuel yourself during? I know you have particular choices. For fuel.
The general
mid-run
rule with ultra marathon runners is that we eat very, very healthily pre-event. During the event, you've really got to...
You just want calories in.
You just want calories, and it has to be whatever you can tolerate, because one of the things that a lot of us find, and I certainly experience it, is something called flavour fatigue.
Yeah.
So I need to get all my calories in the first 50 kilometres in any run.
Yeah.
Because after that, my stomach stops emptying. And it's not that I get nausea. You know you need to eat, but you put something in your mouth and it just is tasteless.
Yeah.
You just can't get it down.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like just chewing on something and
so I just want calories sort of that are going to be absorbed quickly, give me that hit. Lollies or sweets, chocolates don't do it for me because I get that sugar surge, insulin surge, and then a very quick come down.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more like jam sandwiches.
Yeah, stuff with
just junk that you wouldn't usually eat.
Like, because you told me. Chips, still with chips?
Oh, potato chips.
Potato chips.
Salt and vinegar potato chips.
So the success lies in bread, jammed bread with
I think my
chips.
worst has been 2 salt and vinegar potato chips with a Tim Tam in between.
Oh wow,
Because I just didn't know what I wanted.
Yeah.
But as the event goes on, pretty much I do struggle to eat.
Yeah.
So 24-hour event is literally drip feeding.
Is water the only liquid you're consuming?
No. In fact, I don't do water. It makes me feel quite nauseated.
Yeah. What do you do?
So I follow this really healthy regime of Coke.
You know, you know, it's funny. As I've explored the avenues of wanting to train more and more during the day, I did hear from a sports scientist. You know, I was like, they were talking to me like, what do you do for nutrition if you want to train for a long time? And I'm like, I hadn't really even thought about it. Like, they're like, don't you feel like not very good as you're training for lots of hours? I'm like, I don't. And they're like, you should try complex sugars. And he gave me this really fancy explanation for basically like really bad, the kind of food you'd never normally have, but just because it's such a huge sugar dose,
it works.
Yeah, like, do you feel like revitalized from it?
I do.
Yeah.
I'll be, I'll struggle into the support tent.
Yeah.
Coke, a couple of biscuits, half a jam sandwich, whatever.
Yeah.
And it does work. It's not healthy, but I figure when you're running for 24 hours or 6 days, whatever you're doing, you just take what gets you
this
going.
is context as well. The idea isn't going go have Coke.
Yeah.
You know.
Would I do it any other day of the week? No way.
No, but you know, like you know, you're mid exhausting your body, giving everything you have. It's very different.
So you've just got to do it. So I did the 24-hour run, and I think the first time I did 24, I was a bit disappointed. I think I only got to about 155 k's.
Yeah.
I really wanted that 161.
155.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really wanted the 161 to start done the 100 miler.
Yeah.
But I was still very happy with that result.
Yeah.
I finished well. I do have one or two issues after about 80 k's, and it's not uncommon in ultramarathoners when I'm known to hallucinate.
Yeah, you remember you told me about this.
That's right, I'm one of the known hallucinators, and the nurse who always looks after the ultramarathoners knows me quite well now, and she seems to be able to pick when I'm starting to lose the plot.
Yeah.
Will grab me.
I remember you saying to me, it was, you know, you're mid-run and you go past run and you say, did you see that, you know, orange panda over there?
That's
did
right.
you think that was strange? You know, they look at you like...
A couple of years ago, it was the Anzac Day march.
Yeah.
At 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd seen two of the police on horses.
Okay, yeah.
And apparently came into the support tent quite concerned that nobody had got their uniforms on ready for the march.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Last year I did the 24-hour, and I have no idea what set me off, but I do know that at 3 o'clock in the morning I ran into a tree and apologised to it. And then apparently ran into the support tent talking about Anwar Sadat and the pyramids.
Oh, wow.
And again, it just seems to be in the sport tent, 20 minutes, feet up, hot, sweet drink and something to eat. Whatever's doing it, I'm right, and I go off again. So I did that again last year, and I think last year, I think it was 167 kilometres, so I made the 100 miles in 24 hours, which means I'm an Aura member now.
Yeah.
And then I saw a flyer about 6 days.
6-day event.
6-day running event.
All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there. We'll take a small little break, and we'll come back and keep talking about this. So stay tuned, guys.
Okay.
And we're back. So where were we? We were talking about...
6-day events.
6-day events.
Yes. So
why not? Why 6 days?
Well, 6 days events, or what they're called multi-day events, are starting to make an appearance in the ultra running world.
Yeah.
A lot of us are...
Just a cheeky little appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we're over the 100k events. We're doing the sky running.
Because 100k, it's just for someone who, for what am I trying to say? Can't talk right now.
Yeah.
For the general ultramarathon runner, I know you can do 100k within a day.
Yes.
Do people take more than a day to do it?
They certainly do, and most of the ultra runs are very generous with cut-off times.
Yeah.
I know the Sydney Trailblazer, which is often the first introduction that people would have to doing that distance, I think the cut-off's about 48 hours.
Yeah.
So the majority of them are quite generous.
So a lot of 100Ks can be multi-day events?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, people will stop halfway. And I think the thing with the ultra marathon is that people don't grasp the concept that it's not running continually for 100 kilometres without stopping. We do stop. We do have checkpoints, and it's not uncommon for us to stop there 10, 15, 20 minutes and have something to eat, drink, all sorts of things. It's a whole social journey as well as the event.
Yeah,
so
it's an experience.
Yeah, it is, So, certainly the cut-offs are generous. There are some ultra runs where it's not so, and that would often be because of terrain, being in parks and wildlife areas where and safety issues, they need to get people out by night time, whatever. But a lot of the ultra runs quite comfortably go through the night. So 6-day events are starting to make a bit of an appearance, and the first one in Adelaide was starting to be talked about a couple of years ago. And one of our local runners who's travelled overseas extensively doing multi-day events wanted to bring one to Adelaide.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure if he'd get any interest.
Yeah.
Put out a flyer, which fell into my hands. My little black heart skipped a beat in delight, and I just signed up immediately.
How many people signed up to this 6-day event?
There were 9 of us.
No,
so it wasn't a lot. And my friends.
What kind of people can we find at these 6-day events?
Those that they let out for the day.
People left out of Glen. For those who let out from Glenside. Yeah.
So the majority of multi-day eventers would probably be slightly older runners.
Yeah.
And I think because.
Why do you think that is? Because I find a lot in marathon and ultramarathons, you find, which I think makes it even more incredible. You have find a lot much more of the older crowd.
I think the younger people don't have the patience to be out there and perhaps don't have the maturity and mindset at that point, and there's nothing wrong with that, it's just where they are, to push through and say this is going to hurt. Yes, it's going to take 24, 36, 48 hours or whatever. And I can do this.
And it's a different level of maturity and mindset.
Yeah, I think it is. So there were 9 of us that took the challenge. There was only myself and another girl from South Australia.
And how many people quit?
One man pulled out 3 hours before the end because he was coughing up blood. Not another single one of us stopped. We all kept going, and we took breaks. Obviously, for 6 days you can't run. A lot of interest. Lots of runners came down to watch the mass suffering. They all thought we were stark raving mad. But I loved every single minute of it. It was just this 6 day of just the most extraordinary physical and mental challenge. To be honest, I zoned out and it wasn't difficult. It hurt a lot. Probably the last.
How much did you sleep every night?
So, what I did was I would come out and run solidly for 12 hours without stopping. And then I was actually going home at night just for 4 or 5 hours, having some tea, shower, shampoo, and then coming back.
What was that? Because it's always harder the day after. How did that build up over time? Like over the
I didn't find it a problem. I thought I would. And certainly when I would get home in the car, getting out the car was problematic. But once I got out, had a hot bath, I was okay. And psychologically ready to go back. Then towards I think about the last 48 hours, I was suffering quite badly with compartment syndrome.
What, to anyone listening or viewing who doesn't know what that is?
Compartment syndrome is when the muscles swell to such a point that the fascia or lining that surrounds them is pulled tight. In effect, it can, in extreme cases, cut off your circulation and your nerve supply to your limbs. So I had it in both lower legs.
From this one particular run?
From this run. It is loosely associated with rhabdomyolysis, and there was some query as to whether I had that happening as well.
Which is...
That's when actually, muscle meltdown.
Which is quite a bit of bad reputation with CrossFit.
It does. And it's also... Most ultra-marathoners would have some degree of rhabdomyolysis during an ultra-marathon event. So I had pitting edema from the tips of my toes to my knees. It was quite marked. I cut my shoes apart, so my running shoes, I cut all the front off, and I just had up to where the laces start, so I was running with just this sort of almost like a thong, but they did start life as a Brooks shoe. And most of us were doing that by the last 2 days. We'd cut our shoes completely, just to cope with the massive swelling that was taking place. I'd stayed overnight the last 2 days because I was in so much pain. I'd broken down to almost a shuffle. And I was aiming to get to 500 Ks, and I knew if I wanted to get close to that, then I couldn't afford to stop. So I kept going. The nurse was hovering, trying to get me to stop. I was having massages trackside 2 or 3 times a day to try and shift some fluid. Most of the other runners stopped about 45 minutes before the final thing because they had enough, achieved what they wanted to do. I snuck away from the nurse and kept going. And I didn't stop till the final final thing. I wanted to get to 500. I made 486. I was really pleased with that.
I can imagine.
But I'll be going back this year to crack that 600.
When is this event held?
So this will be again in September. August, September this year. The plans are in place for it to happen now. And it'll fit in well with the other runs I've got happening.
Very cool. That's incredible.
So.
You've done others. I know you've done other big runs of note. Did you do a bit of adventure racing?
Yes, I did Tough Mudder. 2 years ago, Phillip Island.
How did you find that?
Had an absolute blast. I wasn't done. I wanted to go round again.
Do you like the obstacle racing?
I do. I love it. It's a lot of fun. I've done that one. I did one other smaller one. Look, I can't even remember what it was now, and it was a bit disappointing after doing Tough Mudder because that was so extreme. But I think it's great, and I think it gives meaning to your fitness, your training. You certainly have to work hard and try hard. You're not going to just be able to go and do it for fun and not having worked. but a lot of fun and very rewarding.
Yeah, definitely.
It really is. And it's a different sort of fitness.
Yeah, it is. You know, it tests it tests different things.
It does, yeah.
Now, how does someone like you train?
The Tough Mudder?
Oh, do you know for what you do?
For what I do.
And how has your training evolved? Because to anyone who doesn't know, the way that we have come into contact is you came into asking to train at CrossFit.
Yes.
You gave it a go for a little bit.
Yes.
Found it wasn't the most conducive
right for me.
For the running.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the level that you do.
Yeah, I was finding it difficult to do the kilometres that I needed to do and do the CrossFit.
So what have you? So talk to us about all the different sort of trainings trainings you've done and the trainings that you do.
So training for me. Originally, when I first started running, was quite literally going down onto Linear Park or out on the streets, and I bribed myself from one stovey pole to the next.
Yeah.
Running. If I can run 2, then I can walk for 1. I never focused on distance. It was always if I can run for 30 minutes in one direction and run back, and then the next week, so I'd do that for a week, and then the next week I'd say, okay, if I can run for 35 minutes in one direction and then go back.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting approach.
Yeah, so I did it that way, never focused on the kilometres.
Yeah.
And then as my training...
Did you find yourself having negative splits when you do this?
You know what, I didn't start using a Garmin until about a year ago.
Yeah.
I just, and still don't use it a lot. I have it, but I very much listen to my body.
Yeah.
I don't think a Garmin over 100 kilometres is going to make me run any faster.
Yeah.
Because you're running the first 50 with the second 50 in mind.
Yeah.
And because ultra marathons, it just changes during an event so quickly that for me it's listening to my body and responding where the body is at that particular time and not looking, should be getting a move on, because if that particular point in time I can't get a move on, then that's not going to happen. So I might have a slow 10, 15 Ks and then pick up the pace further on. So a typical training week for me now is 3 times a week I go out with a road running training group, and that'll be either road or trail. Usually it's before work, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, no more than 12 to 15 Ks maximum. It's at a much faster pace, so I look at that as my speed work. Saturday mornings I do the park run, which is a fairly new phenomenon worldwide.
And that's just a short 5K?
It's a short 5K timed free event that's worldwide. I find it terrifying.
What's your PB with that?
About 23:40. Which is
how old are you, Karen?
58. Which is not fast.
Oh look, you're doing fine.
You know, but I find the concept of a 5 kilometre run absolutely terrifying. Those guys are lunatics. They just go out so fast.
I think the word crazy can be, it's all contextual.
I drive down thinking, oh God, I've got to race this 5Ks. So I do that. Sunday is a long run. And long run would depend on where I'm at. So it can be anything from 25 to 50 Ks. Now I'm going out with a friend tomorrow night to do a training run, and we're just doing 100. And we'll do that overnight. But it'll be a slow pace. So.
See, this is the thing with you. It's you. I remember when I first met you. You're like, "Oh, what did you do today?" I just did a little jog out, and I'd be like, "Oh, just went for a little jog," and then eventually I realized the meaning behind the words you threw around. Oh, just a quick 12K. Oh, are you doing City to Bay? Oh, no, that's just a waste of time. I'd have to run it 4 times to really get something out of it.
Or I should do that both ways to make a difference. So like tomorrow, obviously, it'd be a big night. Then usually during the week, I would throw in a bike ride. And that would be anything from 60 to 80 Ks. And that's mainly cardio, strength work on the legs, but also to give the back and the joints a bit of a rest. I've just started doing yoga once a week, mainly because my physio spat the dummy and won't give me any more dry needling till I try and help myself, because the hamstrings are as tight as.
You did kickboxing for a while?
I did do kickboxing and really enjoyed it. It's just trying to fit everything in.
Just hard to juggle it all.
I'd like to be a full-time professional athlete and just train 24 hours a day. So bike riding, kickboxing I've done. I tried CrossFit for a while. CrossFit terrified me. So I would stand here with you guys lifting 50, 60, 100, whatever kilos. And I'd be struggling to lift a cotton bud.
Oh, you were lifting cotton buds. You were doing fine.
I was just dreadful at it. And I would go I'd leave a really tough session feeling suitably sore, as you would expect. But then I couldn't run the next day, so it came to the point where I had to make the decision of what was going to work.
You're a runner at heart, so
So I needed to make the choice, which is so that's pretty much all I do. I do make sure that I avoid junk miles, and what I mean by that is just going out and saying, I'll just do 15, 20 Ks a day because I feel like it. Well, is it worth doing that? Is that going to make my run any better on Sunday? Or is it going to make me tired? Do I need to do it? The reality is no. So I probably sit at around 50 to 70 kilometres a week. And I think for someone my age at 58, that's realistic. Because you want to try and keep in it for the long time and not
just the short term.
Not the short term.
Of course. Now, with your training, it's very intuitive, isn't it? Like you pretty much take it week by week, day by day. How long did it take to get to a stage where you could kind of do that with your training and not, you set out at the start of the week, let's say you want to run this much. How long did it take you to realise, okay, maybe I don't need to do that much, and maybe I should listen to my body?
I think that came with experience. When I first started doing the trails, I was with, I'm going to sneeze, I trained with about 4 people who I would probably look and say were a bit too gung-ho.
Like they were training too much?
Too hard. Too many kilometres, I think, for it to be effective. It would be not uncommon to go out on an all-day trail in the heat and do 60 to 70 Ks. And you'd just come home feeling completely wasted. And I used to think how much of that was worthwhile. Because a lot of it was just... you were just too tired to make it worthwhile. And so I did compete and run with this small group for a while, then made the decision, and I think that came with maturity and listening to my body and thinking, this isn't right for me. So I actually left that group of people and started training by myself for a while. And then found another group and worked hard with them, and we were going out and doing far fewer kilometres. So, to go out on a Sunday and we'd be doing 20 to 30 Ks. But they were a solid 20 to 30. And it was interesting, then after about 6 months, I actually competed against my previous group that I trained with and was beating them easily by a couple of hours.
Proof was in the pudding.
It was. So, but I think that came with experience and not pushing through extreme pain in the training situation. That listen to your body, and there's nothing wrong if one day you don't feel like doing it. Having said that, I don't allow myself to do that very often, but I think, you can overtrain. And I think that's what comes with experience, and it's a fine line between obsessed, committed, and overtraining.
Do you think a lot of people fall into that?
Yes. Very much. I see people, new runners of all ages, come and they get that initial running bug, and they almost become speed snobs. That's what that they become very much focused. I can crack this 60k in under 6 hours, this, that, and the other, and they're just doing the most ridiculous amount of training hours, the most ridiculous amount of kilometres. And they might be able to keep it up in the short term, but you just sit there and you're watching and you're waiting because you just know they're going to break down and injure themselves. And then it might be quite a few months off. And I've seen people with career-ending injuries.
Have you ever had any injuries that have stopped you completely from running?
I had about 2 years ago ITB issues.
Yeah.
I think I might
that's when I first met you.
When I first met you, yes.
Because you were actually not running a lot then.
No, I was working with a physiotherapist, doing exercises and having dry needling. And I persisted with that for about 5 or 6 months. And in my true gung-ho style, went to an orthopaedic sports doctor and said, I want cortisone because I'm running 105 kilometres in 3 weeks. and I'm like, and he just shut his eyes, gave it to me and said, we'll come back when you finish the event and we'll give you a top-up. Was that the right way to do things? No. But I did it. And I think that's probably only been my main injury. I've had niggling hamstrings for a couple of years, and hence I've just started yoga. Because the reality is I can't keep doing what I'm doing without doing some stretching.
And Are you enjoying yoga?
No.
No.
No. Yeah. I struggle to sit still or to be quiet.
Yeah.
But I have a lovely
Do you find that challenging? Like,
yes.
It's funny how challenging means different things for different people.
It's very hard.
Some people being quiet and still is much more challenging than being active.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
But I'm going with a couple of other ultra marathon runners, and we're all holding each other's hands and saying, we can do this.
Touch your toes, it'll be fine.
I've got a foam roller at home. Yeah. It looks really nice in the corner of the family room.
Make sure it looked good with the other furniture. Suited the sofas in the match of the TV cabinet.
That's right. I'm just so bad. It's a pretty colour and it blends.
You know, I'd love to know how many foam rollers actually get used in the world, because it seems like this great thing. You go like, oh look, it's the key to my suppleness. You know, if I purchase this, I'll uncover all the secrets to all those positions I've never been able to do. And like the truth is,
But I am very good, and religiously in the car when I'm driving, I sit with a tennis ball under each hamstring.
Oh, good. There you go.
And move it around. And
that's a good idea.
And I do that all the time. So that's my token gesture.
Very good. What's coming up for you?
So this is a big year coming up.
Crazier things.
Yes. So in April, I have a friend who had a dream to do a run for charity for Crohn's disease, which he has a history of that in his family, and he needed someone to run from Melbourne to Adelaide with him.
So, to anyone in other parts of the world or who don't know how far Melbourne is from Adelaide, how far is that?
So the way that we've got planned,
by car, it's 8 hours.
8 hours, so about 740 k's.
740. How long do you expect this to take?
About 9 days. We're going to do about 2 marathons a day.
2 marathons.
Yeah. So, and that should that should work it out.
I can't handle this, Karen.
That should be okay.
2 marathons a day.
You've got to love Matt. He waited.
I've contemplated many times halfway through this podcast just calling it a day and going for a run. Because I just feel lazy by the second.
So Matt waited until I was spread-eagled on the top of Chapman's Hill, which is a very steep hill here in the Adelaide Hills, and just said, hey Bentley, you want to run from Melbourne with me? And you know, my bargaining skills were not high at that point in time, so I just said, oh yes, when? So that's happening April the 11th, we set off. So that's April. Then I'm going to go up and do the Cooper Pedy Marathon. Because that's a new marathon this year, and that just sounds...
Is that over the Samson...
No, this is up Cooper Pedy along the dog fence.
Okay.
And that just sounds a heap of fun. The thought of running 42 k's in red dirt just sounds so much fun. So I'm going to do that, and then the end of June I'm running across the Simpson Desert. And that's for Diabetes Australia. So fundraising for that. So that's over 6 days. It'll be a marathon distance a day, and then on, I think it's the 4th day, they're putting in an 82 kilometre distance.
Just because. Look, it's all incredible, Karen. You're an incredible human being. If you don't feel lazy from listening to this, you should. Shame on you. If you haven't run as much as Karen has run in one day, then shame on you as well. Look, I think you're a testament to knowing to both that age and not having a fitness background, are excuses, and it shouldn't be stopping points for anyone to go out there and explore things and see that they can push the boundaries of what their body's capable of. And it's about giving it a go. Unless you do that first 4K where you run and you're barely crawling and you can barely make it, you would have never gone to the heights and gone to the great lengths that you have gone to.
If someone says you can't do it, you just say why not.
A cup of concrete says toughen up, that's it. If people want to find you, Karen, do you have any sponsors, or do you have anyone that you'd like to thank or give a shout out?
Facebook. Karen Bentley. You'll see me there. I think my profile picture is on top of Mount Kosciuszko. In just a crop top and a skirt in -2 degrees because somebody dared me to. I am sponsored by Lululemon, the clothing company. No, other than that, no, it's all on my own. On my own.
Very cool. We'll definitely have Karen on the show again to talk about maybe some running tips, and we'll go down that line.
Fabulous.
Thank you very much, Karen, for coming on the show. Thanks for listening today, guys. As always, we are sponsored by Fashion as Prescribed, and thanks for listening to the show. Take care. Peace.
Bye.